All right, we're back together. I'm here with Mark, and we're just going to continue our conversation about the goodness of God. Um, he's been so good in everything that He's given us, and in His creation that should point us to a Creator that has blessed us with every blessing that we have. Um, we've talked about how that us as humans, we're given a special position in creation, that God gave us a distinct role in his creation to be his images, and how we're supposed to love one another, love God with everything we have, love our neighbor as ourselves. But today, the conversation is probably going to be more realistic, um, because this message is given to humans who have turned in on themselves and turned against those closest to them, siblings and spouses. Just over and over, people turn inside and turn against those who they should have their best interest at heart. Um, and so that is where we're going to start today. Um, just beginning by thinking through the type of person that we all have been at one point in our life. A type of person that the biblical story actually starts with, um, Adam and Eve, that they are almost in every way, just like us, other humans that fail, other humans that make mistakes, because we've turned inside and we've turned inside out. Um, we've made determinations about what we think is the good thing that I want. We make self determinations about what our highest desire should be. And when we do that, we get wrong the relationships that flow from ourself. Um, so for Adam and Eve, it was their relationship to one another. Once the thing I most desired, once the thing I thought was good and looked good and was what would fill my heart and my desire, once that thing became twisted, then how I relate to those I should love, those who I should want the best for, that becomes twisted. And we just become wrapped up, with ourselves and with other people who are turned inside out.
Yeah, totally agree, Eric. In the beginning, when mankind was created, um, they knew God. They even walked with God. Uh, so God was very close to them. But I guess the weakness of fleshliness, human living, is that we are caught up with what exists around us, and we become more inward thinking. It becomes, what do I want to do? What do I need? And I think in turning away from the Lord, we began seeking our own way. We began really wanting to be our own God, our own determination of what is right or wrong for us. Not even really about what is wrong, but what we want. Selfishness. Um, we tend to become arrogant and think we know a lot as humans, when we need humility and openness to ideas and perspectives that are beyond us, that God provides. So, anyway, we took the wrong path. We rebelled, and as we separate ourselves from God, we became less and less um, centered on Him. We less and less knowledgeable. We began to be forgetful of all that He is. So I think down in the generations, it's been God that's had to reach back toward us and try to bring us back to him, because we definitely lost ourselves
Yeah.
over all these eons, decades, and so forth.
Yeah. And it's a great point too, that even while we are lost within ourselves, that God came to, he loves us so much that he came himself to help straighten us out.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't just kind of wash your hands of the project, but it was become more involved and give your own hands to be crucified in the process.
Yeah, God knew that we didn't have it within us to become righteous.
Yeah.
Someone had to intervene who could stand between us and God as a totally righteous, sinless individual, and return us to our standing with him. And that's there was only one avenue. God himself only could do that, and he gave that to us in love for that to happen.
Yeah. So we talked over our last conversations just about how important it is to have love for one another. How important it is that when asked what is the greatest command, that Jesus said, love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, strength, and mind. And the second's like it, to love your neighbor as yourself. And so that is the solution we're working toward. How Jesus is the person, how Jesus is given by God to be the source of our being straightened out. Being able to determine what is actually right and good, and an honest, godly desire versus just what I think in the moment feels right or sounds right or is enticing. Jesus helps us sort that out. So we're going to have to work toward that. But I do want to kind of focus on where things go wrong before we get to the solution. Because when Jesus says that, love your neighbor as yourself, I think there's two main places we get this wrong. Love, if we're loving in a sacrificial, well-intentioned, compassionate, purposeful way towards another person, that is the love. And so we love our neighbor. We can get that distorted with who is the actual neighbor that we should show love to. Does every person fall under this category of neighbor? Is there ever something that a neighbor is doing that gives me a pass on having to love that neighbor? We get that wrong. Or we're not clear about it. But there's also the category I want us to talk about today, which is yourself. So love that neighbor as yourself. I want us to start at the end of that if we have what is actually loving towards ourselves wrong, then of course loving neighbor is going to be, it's going to be impossible. How could it be possible? If I don't even know how to love myself, how can I expect you to love me as I would love myself? I don't know if it's possible if we don't get that love yourself right. And of course, it's an idea that has been captured by the world. Love yourself. I think you can take that. You can make that be God. That can become an idol. Loving yourself, absolutely can. But how do we get this right? How do we get this right?
Good points. That's right. We have to have the proper perspective. We have to have a godly perspective on self-love. Of course, we need to love. If we don't really love ourselves, we're going to come across in our speech, our manner, our tone, it's all going to reflect that lack of love. And if we are sending that out, it's going to be reflected against other people, and they're going to respond negatively. And a lot of people wonder, why are they mistreating me? And maybe it's because I am abrasive or negative or not very positive, not very uplifting person. And I think if we bring God into our lives, that changes because we understand that we are lovable. Because God does love us dearly. So if God is willing to give us all things through Christ, then we have worth in his eyes. Now, the problem is having a worldly sense of worth to where we are better than others. Even some Christians might think, I'm saved and I'm above other people. But that is not the love of God. God has given us a break when we didn't deserve it, and therefore we need to love others as we've been loved. I think that's one of the keys, is that we understand God's love for us, and then we're able to turn that around, open ourselves to others.
Absolutely. I like how you said it at the end. Can you say it one more time?
Yeah, if we learn and trust and believe in God's real love for us,
Yes.
then we see that we have worth in his eyes.
Yes.
And that worthiness, the worthiness to where the Son of God was given for us, can be reflected outward from us toward others, to where we are humbled by that. We've been given a break, and so we give mercy and grace to others in the same way we've received it. We value the worth he has given to us, and we assign worth to others.
Yes. Yes. You're just making me think about pursue love. Pursue the God who is love, and he'll, as we experience the love that he's poured out for us in his Son, that's absolutely going to shape who we are as people, and being able to see that God's will is love. Like, God's will is always because he loves us and he wants the best for us. So whether it is, I think it helps. It allows you to recategorize some things when things aren't going ideal, when it is maybe more difficult. That God's will is always loving. It's always for your best interest.
Yes.
Always.
Yeah.
And so, going back to this Genesis 3, Adam and Eve, the humans that all of us can relate to. I think that is kind of what distracted Eve. She had her eyes turned off of God's will, off the really loving, merciful, compassionate thing, to put her in that place and say, there is this tree that you can't take from. There's something there. There's something there for humans to grow in. Having that put before them and saying no, because this is God's will. Mm-hmm. Not for any other reason other than this is God's will. Yeah. This is what he said. This is the loving thing. But we silence that voice. Like, as humans, I think anybody who is a human can say at some point they've silenced out God's will. Like, I think I got this. Like, I think this is what I really need. I know maybe at times I have this sense that this wouldn't be what pleases God. This wouldn't be in line with His will, but I think I'm going to do it anyway. I think I know what I'm doing. I think I got this. And you just you push them out. You push them out. And I think it's at that moment we start turning inside out. We lose the sense of ourself, because now the sense of self is no longer grounded in God's will. Like, I created you to be my image. If you just follow my will, this will all go perfectly. But we say no, thanks. I'd rather follow my will right now. And disaster.
Right. And disaster happens so often because we are limited. We are limited as human beings, whereas God has all things, all knowledge, all wisdom. We can never, as human beings, have the wisdom that we need to truly make this life what God meant for us to have here. But we are deceived, like Eve was, into thinking maybe I'm missing out on something. If I can be like God and make my own decisions and go my own way, wouldn't that be really rewarding? Better.
Yeah,
Yes, better
yeah.
is right. So
My will is better than God's will.
And that is great foolishness and folly to go that direction. But it's very enticing.
Yeah.
We live in this fleshly, physical life. We see people who look to be in very rewarding places, materially, sensually, status-wise. It looks like we could, with enough effort, have heaven on earth. And it just isn't going to happen. It ain't going to happen. We need to yield to God's wisdom. And I think a lot of people who have tried it their own way, I think they come to realize that there's more to life than what we can ever accomplish, especially since life comes to an end and we lose everything that we've ever gathered or produced or accumulated. There is something beyond the physical life. So it's a short-sighted, foolish perspective to turn inward and to make life all about me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And there is, that's why we need a solution. Like, what is going to turn us the right way out? We need something, because I think it's safe saying that everybody's had that crisis. That maybe it's like an eye-opening revelation of, like, everything I think I know, I don't know. The things that I thought I could predict how they would work out, like, I thought I could have planned that perfectly and that would have produced the desired result. It doesn't go that way. And so, like, what is it? What is it that will help us to love God in a way that orients us right side out and helps us love each other flawlessly, so that the church and so that the body doesn't become just another grounds of worldliness with the title of church on it. Like, would our community reflect a difference in like a bowling club or a book club, or our interpersonal dynamics similar to that of, a group of friends at school together, a group of teachers who are friends and teach together.
Mhm.
What makes us different?
Yeah.
Like what about this existence is God offering that? And I'm not saying different in a way like, ooh, they're the Christians over there.
Mhm.
I'm saying like different in a way that like those people have something that excites them, that energizes them, that brings them together in a way nothing else on this world can do. So I think that's who we should be.
Yeah.
We should be people that are marked with certain virtues, certain characteristics that should set us apart from just another group that the world could offer. Um,
Yeah, we're expressions of God and His goodness. We are His image. And so that should really set us apart, not make us better at all than anyone else, not at all, but it should be a game changer in our lives. It should produce a quality existence as far as love, as far as closeness to God and other people, as far as willingness to step beyond my little realm of existence and touch others' lives. An essence of sacrifice, of but also joyful sacrifice.
Yeah.
We are so glad to be aware of our source of being, of our source of well-being, of the power that is in the love of God. It's something we exude, I think, or should exude.
yeah, and yeah, I think that's it. I think you're onto it. That like we should, as individual people who make up a body of believers, right? I'm talking like me and you,
Mhm.
as individuals who come together and make up a body. But us as individuals, like we should have, not that we should have, but hopefully there are places in in anyone's area that they can go to and find other people who claim to be disciples of this Jesus Christ, and have found that He is able to help make them right side out. There's other people who have felt that sense of being lost and confused and disoriented because we have trusted in our own will. We haven't submitted to God's will. We decided to take it into our own hands, and things have gone wrong. And we realize that we want things to be right. We want things to work out right. And so we go to God. We search for God, and hopefully we find other people who have had that experience. They've turned to this God and have experienced Him sorting them out. And so we're drawn to other people who've had that experience. But it's all about people who have gone back to God's will. I think that's the key. Is as individuals, we recognize like my will is not working. I have to put it all back into God and in His will, and I have to start trying to figure out what is God's will in all these decisions. Like all these decisions every day that we make. If I really were to take God's will into into account, and like run everything through that filter, I think that'll help us start to sort things out. I think that will help us start to be right side out. But it's always going back to His will. And when we do that individually and come together as a body, then I've found other people who are following God's will, and of course things are going to go much more harmonious between us because we're both giving ourselves to God and to His will, not Eric and Eric's will, or Mark and Mark's will, or Eric and Mark's will over against God's will and the rest of the body. But just we're going to get there next week, more about like these interpersonal relationships and how that has helped. But really, it takes ourself recognizing that God has given us a choice between blessing and curse. This can go well for you if you just listen. If you just listen to me and to my will, this can go right.
Yeah.
This can go better.
And we help bring others into that way of peace and joy and love. It starts with Jesus saying, I think in Matthew 11, verse 20, come all who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. He says to take his yoke upon him and learn of him, for I am meek and lowly in heart, and you will find rest unto your souls. So the beginning is, he also says in the Sermon on the Mount, blessed are the poor in spirit. These are people who recognize they are needy and impoverished in spirit.
Mm-hmm.
We are spiritual beings. And when people realize that they are impoverished, that they need more than what this life can ever offer, they reach out, and they can reach out to Jesus, and He will bring rest and peace. And yes, it's easy to turn and to obey and to yield to Jesus. It does require a desire to do so. It does require
trusting God's will,
trusting and yielding,
yeah,
giving
and yielding. Yes, trusting and yielding.
Yes,
your will
and
for His.
But there's such peace in that. There's such you're letting go because you have the source, which is God Himself, who is abiding with you. And you're so grateful, so joyful. And you are in a group of people who have found that very thing also. And you're loving one another unconditionally, freely. There's no judgment anymore. There's not people. You're not given a rule book per se and to check off boxes, but your heart has the Spirit of God within it. And yes, we do have wisdom in Scripture, and we continue reading and growing, but we do this in love and peace, and we learn about God. We learn about how wonderful and good He is. It's really freeing. It's a wondrous experience to come to God and to be accepted and embraced by God as one of His very children. That's what we are. We're His child. We're each His child. We've been brought in to the kingdom and to the family of God.
Yeah. If that doesn't encourage you to want to hand over your will to, the loving Father who made His Son known to us, to just show, trust my way. Like, I know what I'm talking about. Just listen to me.
Yeah.
Just listen to me.
Yeah. And rather than God's way being a burden, that doesn't allow me to live my life fully, it is totally, that is totally a false belief, because I love your comment about being turned right side out. That frees us to be everything that we would ever want to be. Loving, helpful, engaging, fulfilled, purposeful. Um, it is not a burden at all. It is something that I gladly give up the forbidden fruit. Gladly give up, because the way of life is an eternal gift of goodness, joy, power, and light. It's indescribable.
Yeah. There's no taste that sweet, as delighting in his will, in his will.